All right. Thank you guys so much for coming today. I'm going to record this so you guys can use this as a reference to go back to. More importantly, I know there was a few people that couldn't be here, so that I told them I would try to remember to record. So top of mind here. All right, I'm going to dive right in because we've got a lot to go over today, and I'm going to do a share screen. So on Zoom, there's quite a few of you. I'll say it again because I always say it. You won't be able to just put something in the chat and assume I'm going to see it, because when I'm sharing the screen and going along, I probably am not going to see it. So let me pull it up. And this is not in the drive because I've been editing it for like a year now. So I keep finding that I am adding more and more information every time I go back. That's the bad part about editing, is you just keep on adding more information. Not the right. I just printed this so you think it would be right where I think it's at. So guys, let me find it. Nope. Boy, I'm just struggling today. So for those of you watching this recording, sorry. Where are you? Too much stuff. All right. There it is. Okay. So about a year ago, I thought a class that sounded good to me was Real Estate 101. And I started creating, and I thought it was going to be a one-hour class, and it ended up being 8 chapters. And so it became either 8 classes, or I condensed 2 parts together, which is what we're doing this month, and do today part 1 and 2, and so on through the month of April. We'll do 2 parts at a time. I've printed these out for you all here as we go. So rather than getting everybody the whole thing at one time, someone did ask to purchase it from me, other productivity coaches. So that's why I'm editing, and that's why I have a copyright in there. So I'm editing it because although I'm flattered someone wants to buy it, I didn't write it to sell. So now I'm stuck in edits. But the good news for you all, I probably got 10 more classes wrapped up in just my edits. So we're going to start from the beginning, and it's definitely going to be like, I would say another couple months, we'll have a refreshed version. And what I'm looking to do is, and I might dig into you guys in stories, is because if I'm going to actually publish it, which I am, when I get past edits, is it needs some stories. I wrote it as a workbook because I wanted it to be step by step, which is what it is. But then I thought if I'm going to publish it and charge people for it, it should have more content. Like, this is the kind of situation that could happen, or some agent here, and I'll note your name, had this situation happen. So that's where I'm working now. Once that's done, I hope that the Market Center will purchase a book for everyone. So yay, hopefully that happens. Yes, I recorded that. So hopefully someone in leadership agrees to that. So that's my plan. But anyway, so this is going to be a series, and we will complete it the second to last week in April. And then, like I said, then the materials will become available as we go, but just know it's in edits, so it's not perfect. And I'm working on getting more content. So chapter 1 and 2 is what we're going to go over today, which is getting started. And let me make it a little bit bigger for you guys. Your role as a real estate agent. So I was thinking about Well, what does getting started mean? And even for those of you who aren't brand new or even new, maybe you didn't do some of these things at the beginning. So it's relevant for you to say, oh, okay, well, I wish I had known that when I was brand new. Um, so what actually is your role as a real estate agent? Yeah. And then we're going to go over the life of a successful agent. So what does that day look like? What does that week look like? What is it that those successful agents are actually doing? And I went over that information as well. So there's a whole packet there, guys. So take from the top the whole part 1 and 2. It's not just 2 pages. Um, and then we're going to talk a little bit about setting up your business like a business and what your 30, 60, 90 to do that's going to look like, branding, database, that kind of thing. And then overview of the local market. As an expert in this industry, and by the way, as soon as you get licensed, if you're talking to people, they expect you to be an expert. That doesn't mean that you need to know about everything in the entire state of Ohio. I say it all the time, pick your bubble, whatever your bubble area is, and know about that. How do we do that? Well, we just get on the MLS. You've got to learn the MLS anyway, so it's a great time to do it. Explore an area that you want to be an expert. So starting with where you live, perhaps, where you want to do business, and then just go looking on the MLS for what's out there. So do some searches on price ranges, or do I want to sell vacant land? What's out there? Is that something that's hard to come by? Just having a full understanding. I can tell you to this day, I can walk in a particular agent's office who's been in this business nearly as long as me, and he is always on the MLS. No matter what, I've never seen him at his desk not on the MLS, and he's still learning what is happening in the market because it changes. The houses that were for sale a year ago aren't today. So he's always an expert. If I want to know about a house, he's going to be the person I'm going to say, hey, that yellow house down there on the corner of this street and that, tell me about it. It's not his listing, but he knows. So maybe that's not the business that you want to provide. I'm not going to put that pressure on you. But if you want to be the expert and have people look at you as a resource that way, especially when you're in networking groups, that a networking group to me is also a family event. I am networking at my Easter dinner. I mean, we're talking about real estate here, right? I need my friends and family always to be thinking about me being a real estate agent and that I'm the expert in the area. No less if somebody just says, hey, what's going on in the market? Shouldn't I know the answer to that question? So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Lead generation is the first thing. So I was talking to somebody the other day. I never remember who it was. And it was a recruit, and she was asking what would real estate be a good idea for her? And she was telling me a little bit about her life and stuff like that. And this was what my answer was. Do you want to come into real estate because you think that most of your day is going to be spent out on appointments selling houses? And she said, well, evenings and weekends. I said, okay, so you work during the day and you want evenings and weekends to be available for appointments. When are you going to lead generate? So by all means, block your evenings and weekends for appointments, but maybe an appointment is, I'm going to now spend my time lead generating because there won't be appointments if you're not. You can become an agent and decide what your hours are and say that those are for appointments. Yay, you. But if you don't do anything, there's no appointments. So that's why the most important thing to know is, what does lead generation even mean? And really, what is my role as a real estate agent? Because I promise you, 80% of your job is to be spent on different kinds of lead generating activities. If you want 20% of your time spent in real estate to be on appointments. So that, not that I ever want to talk somebody out of real estate, but there's plenty of people that get in this business and get out very quickly because they didn't realize that they had to actually lead generate to be able to. And whether you're on a team or not, you still have to lead generate. Like, no one says, here, go out on this appointment. That's just not how it works. You have to be doing things and following up and being in front of people. So we're going to talk a little bit about understanding your database, versus your what kind of business do you want to do, SOI, which is your sphere of influence, versus what's considered a cold lead. I hear all kinds of different things about that and what decisions you all will make about where your business is coming from. And what do different sources of business look like? Open house, social media, and all of those things. And then how does it look to follow up and nurture like approach? Okay. All right. So let's dive in. All right. I'm not going to read this all to you. You have it all, in front of you. But what actually is my role as a real estate agent? Well, part of it, of course, is showing houses and writing and negotiating contracts. So it's super important that you also know how to do that. Highly recommend that you're coming to those training classes or watching these kind of videos, because the last thing that you want is, yay, I got an appointment finally, and they want to make an offer, but I don't even know what my login for Dotloop is, nor how to use it. You need to learn how to use those tools and those things. You need to know, what does a transaction look like from start to the finish. So that way you can navigate through it, because the last thing you want is, surprise, somebody wants to buy a house and I don't know what the heck to do. So there is no point where you can say, I'm preparing for that and I'm not going to lead generate until I've prepared for that, because there's no end in that preparation, if that makes sense. So please do not feel like there's a time where you're going to get to the top of the mountain in training and say, now I'm ready to work to try to get business. The learning is continuously. I'm still learning. Everyone in this industry is still learning at something, and business is different with every transaction, right? So there's always something new happening. Knowing who who is your fiduciary responsibility to. It seems like it would be obvious, but it's not always. And so we don't make decisions for our clients. We're option providers. So we need to learn how to talk to people, which is also why we do scripting and things like that. So understanding those things are a real important part of your role as a real estate agent. Marketing yourself. You've opened up a business. I don't know, if a person opens up a restaurant and they don't market it and there is no word of mouth yet, then who's coming, right? And so you have to do things to market yourself. So just remembering that you're a salesperson. Who is your client and are they your client? Knowing how to, do negotiating skills and really running your business and setting it up like a business. This is where I put this in the getting started. You need to start from the beginning, correct, and knowing that this is a business. So I'm going to just quickly touch on tax time, because we're at tax time now, right? If you have a business set up, then you should have an LLC named whatever your business is. My business name is GFKW Coaching, and all of my business and all of my income, including my own sales, runs through that business account, business credit card, all of those things. So when I get paid, it goes in my business account, and then I pay myself a salary. The reason I set it up that way is because you get really good tax benefits. That might not be relevant right now for everybody to do it that way, but as you start selling houses, it's something to think about. I don't recommend you try to do it on your own. I have my accountant do that. So not only do I have an LLC, I also have an S corporation. So the LLC is just the name or the entity. And then I run my business as an S corporation. Hence the Gina Ferrer works for GFKW Coaching. And so I pay myself a salary every year that I've decided on, which is $30,000 just in my case. And I get to write off my salary in my business now, which helps bring those figures down. We're self-pay in that way, right? We pay our own taxes, and you need to set up your business so that Social Security and unemployment and all the things like in a business are coming out of you quarterly. I always get the email from my accountant that says, hey, we're taking this amount on this date because it's the end of Q1. Which just happened to me last week. So if you don't do that, you're going to get hit with it all, and surprise, you're going to owe money. Even if you only make a couple $1,000s, you still got to catch all that up. So running your business like a business starts with setting it up like a business. You're not going to pay the 18% self-employment tax or whatever it is. I've lost track. Also by having a business, you don't have to pay self-employment tax. So I just pay taxes on $30,000, not what I really make. And then I do my write-offs through the business. So I've given my accountant's name out before I can do it again, but start thinking about things like that. Who's your ideal client? We have an exercise that we do in the class. We're not going to do that today, but take a moment and think about that. Who am I marketing to? Who is my ideal client? That doesn't mean that limits you to that person or that dynamic. Like maybe it's first-time home buyer. That doesn't mean you won't sell the neighbor's house that's not a first-time home buyer. It just means they're my ideal client. That gives you an idea of, what should my content be if I'm trying to draw the attention of that group of people. It's a good idea to know an ideal client, because then it makes your marketing not all over the place and you're much more, focused. Again, doesn't mean you're only going to work with that group of people, but it certainly gives you something to dial into. Do I want to market and network with businesses? I was just at a nail salon yesterday, and I know Jen Mucci goes there to that salon, and the girl who does my nails said, yeah, Jen came by with a box of Krispy Kremes and she drops off donuts here all the time. But since it was April Fool's, we opened up the donut box and guess what was inside? Vegetables. So that's funny. That's memorable. She took the time, and I imagine her and her team went to a bunch of local businesses doing that. And they do that continuously because consistency is what's important. Guarantee that they get a ton of business from doing that kind of networking. So maybe their ideal client among many is I'm networking with local businesses, right? So lots of ideas like that. Creating logos and stuff like that we'll talk about here as we move on. So the life of a successful agent, what does that day look like? If this is my full-time job, we have to remember, and I say it endlessly, is it's 40 hours. I don't know about you, but nobody works a full-time job that's less than 40 hours if they're full-time. If you're part-time, it's 20 hours, and it's okay if you're part-time. But if you got into real estate to make this your part-time job, then you need to find a way to be spending 20 hours a week. If this is a hobby for you, that's okay too. It's your business. It could be whatever you want it to be. So if you're working no time and you're just waiting for possible friends and family to come out of the woodwork, let me tell you what happens when family comes out of the woodwork. I think, Jake, I had this conversation with you at 9:30 last night. My own sister's ready to sell her house and buy. And I had to have the hard conversation with her last night, which was this. It's not for free. What makes you think that I'm doing this for free? She actually thought I was going to list her house for free because she's my sister. We're relying on friends and family, potentially, if you're looking for an SOI business, so that you can make money, not so that you got licensed so that you can sell houses for free to friends and family. There is no friends and family discount in my business. Sorry. And I mean, the best I could do is maybe go 2.5% instead of 3%. That might sound really harsh, but my rebuttal to her, because she couldn't handle my answer and she started getting upset, was how terrible I was for not doing it for free, was this. I teach my agents, as well as how I run my business, to potentially have one of your sources be SOI, which is your sphere of influence. If my SOI I can't count on to give me business to make money, then why am I doing this? It's my job. Nobody comes over to her job and says, you're going to work this week for free. So it's not for free, but you can decide that. If you want to, I'm just crude. My parents, I charged a commission. I'm sorry. It's a job. Well, she said that 20 years ago, by the way. And I said, I was a stupid business owner 20 years ago. I'm not a stupid business owner today. Furthermore, I needed the money more back then than I do now. So shame on all of you for thinking I should have done it for free. That's my answer. I should have been an attorney. But anyway, so we want to make sure we design that to be set up like a business and run it. And that's my excuse, is my business requires a commission. In any case, so starting early, I start my day pretty early and I'm digging into my emails. And some of you guys know that I'm texting you at 7:30 in the morning with answers to questions that maybe you had the night before. And I'm also doing all of the things that I need to do for my coaching business for you all, but also for my real estate business. So I start early. I am, looking at my emails, responding to emails, any emails from yesterday that didn't get done are going to get done today. I also do my social media first thing in the morning. We have lots of time blocking information in the Google Drive that talks about what does a day look like on a calendar that you can pull up and look at. Maybe you're not a morning person. I am. As soon as my feet hit the ground, I'm high energy first thing in the morning. So that's when I like to do that kind of stuff. Some people are nighttime people. I can tell because you guys are texting me questions at night because now you're working. That's to each his own, right? But you need to designate a time of when you're going to be working. But a successful full-time agent starting early. They're probably not starting at 11 o'clock. They're also prioritizing their lead generation. Again, to me, lead generation is like working out. No one really likes doing it. A couple years ago, when I was at Family Reunion, Gary Keller himself stood on stage in Vegas and said, I hate lead generating. Nobody likes it. Even the owner of our company doesn't love it. But if you don't do it, you won't have business. So it's just one of those things. If I want it, I don't. If I want a totally fit body, it's not going to happen if I don't work out and eat right. So that's just, we can want what we want, but it doesn't actually happen if we don't work for it. I guess there's a few oddballs out there that look perfect and never have to do a thing, but that's just not the reality for most people. Tracking your numbers. We have multiple different trackers in the Drive as examples, and tracking what you're doing. Wouldn't a business, if you're running like a business, know their numbers? How many people am I calling? How many open houses did I do last quarter? How many mailings did I do? How many times did I reach out to somebody on social media? How many social media posts have I been doing? There's a million different things that you should be tracking. You track it for one, accountability to yourself, because we can magically think we did work today, but when you put it on paper, you're really going to see, oh, was it really as much as I thought that it was? Because we're giving ourselves credit for our thinking time and not for actual work. It doesn't matter that you spent 2 hours thinking about it. That doesn't count. I'd love to hear someone tell their boss if they were paid hourly, but Mr. Boss, I spent 2 hours thinking about working and I still want paid for that. So thinking about it doesn't go towards your time, but it's easy to do. And what I mean by that is I might be consumed by a pending transaction. So I'm thinking about the things I need to do. That's not work. It's the doing that counts. So that's why you should be tracking those kinds of things. Also I love this a couple of years ago, an agent from one of our offices had said, it was like one of our team meetings, and he was talking about his first year in real estate and what he had sold, and that his goal in his second year in real estate was to do twice as much as he did last year. And so he said, I just looked at my tracker and I multiplied it by 2, and then that became my goals for my second year. So we worked from that. He wouldn't have known how to multiply that by 2 if he hadn't been tracking it. So that's why the importance, you'll look back at the tracker and understand the importance of doing it. I know in the moment the day doesn't feel right or like, why bother? But it helps you if you want to do twice as much next year. It truly is a numbers game. Invest in your growth in your business. That's something a successful agent does. That means that they practice scripting. So a person who's been doing this for 25 years is still practicing scripting. It's not just for new people. That's investing in your time and your business, attending trainings, staying up on marketing trends. It doesn't just inherently happen just because you've been in the business for a while. Successful agents will leverage their time, meaning maybe they are to a point where they need an assistant, or they leverage their time by using our transaction coordinator that we offer here, which, by the way, if you do that, they don't charge you like by the hour. They just take a portion out of your agreed amount of money. I won't quote what it is because I think it changes occasionally, but they'll just take that out of your commission. If the deal falls through, you don't owe them anything. So, maybe especially for someone who's dual career, thinking about a transaction coordinator is not a bad idea because they can handle all the ins and outs of stuff that needs to happen during your pending transaction, if that makes sense. Following up relentlessly. So that means until someone says stop, keep going. They can unsubscribe. They can unsubscribe to an email. They can opt out of text messages. So unless they said stop, that's not trash. I don't care if you reached out to them 10 times and they didn't reply. They could say stop if they wanted you to stop. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I get texts every day from someone trying to sell me insurance or leads or something like that. And I just hit stop and spam, stop, spam every time. And they still keep on coming. I don't know if it's the same person or not, but the point is I can opt out and so can they. Learning how to balance your work life with your personal life. Here's where I feel like, in my opinion, that it gets hard. My personal life comes first. I work full-time selling real estate. I work full-time coaching you guys. And so I have two full-time jobs and my personal life still comes first. So that means my calendar, I start my calendar for the month ahead and I'm looking at what do I need to put on there? What doctor's appointments do I need to go to? My granddaughter's running track. Now I've got her April track calendar. So that's going to go on there. And some other things like that would happen. When my son played football when he was in high school, I never missed a game. There was no way I was ever missing a game. Even a little person football, I don't care if it was $1 million house that somebody wanted to see, I was never going to miss it. The client will go when you're available. I mean, you don't just walk into a doctor's office and say, I'm ready to be seen, right? You schedule an appointment. So same thing. So personal life goes on there first, and then everything else gets worked around it, right? That's how you can balance that life work, idea so that you can still do it all. Here's an example of what a successful agent calendar could look like. You guys have that printout. The rest of you, I will upload that into the drive so that you can see it. So key principles here is that, again, if you're a successful full-time agent, you should be blocking 2 to 3 hours every morning or every day for lead generating activities. We've talked about this recently with the group. Don't block 2 hours for lead generation and show up to your lead generation time not knowing what you're doing. That also then wastes time. So your 2 hours, if it's 2 hours of lead generation, that clock starts ticking when you go. You don't get to take 30 minutes thinking about what you're doing and think that that's 2 hours of lead generation. That's not. Don't lie to yourself. You should go to that session of 2 hours with the list of people that you're contacting, whether it's texting, whether it's smart plans, whether it's social media, whatever it is. Who is my target and what am I saying? Let's make it easy. If I'm calling 5 people today, or I want 5 contacts, because I know a lot of you are working the 5 to 25 challenge. If I want 5 contacts every day, that means two-way conversations. That's not, I called 5 people, nobody answered, I'm done for the day. It's 5 communications two-way, whether that's a response in an email, a DM, any way that someone responds to you, or a face-to-face in person. I need to go to my time frame for lead generation if I'm making 5 contacts with who I'm contacting and what I'm saying. So here's what I think is an easy way of doing that. Choose your script first. What am I saying today? And then fill your spot. Or maybe it's a whole week. Maybe this week for these 25 outreaches are going to be about, for example, we had our Easter egg hunt that KW puts on at Easter time. Maybe I'm going to spend last week contacting 25 people, 5 a day, to invite them to the Easter egg hunt. That might be something that kind of touches on real estate because you're talking about your brokerage doing that, right? That would be an example. Maybe you're brand new and you want to call 5 people every day to tell them that you just got licensed or that you're looking to grow your business this year. There's in the drive-in scripts, there's a script that's called I Have a Goal. And that it sounds something like this. Hey, so-and-so, I wanted to let you know I have a goal this year. I know that I sell real estate, but I have a goal this year of selling 25 houses. So I just wanted to call and let you know if you know of anybody that's thinking about buying or selling, please keep me top of mind. And you know what? Go ahead and send me your address. I don't think I have it. I'm going to mail you some of my business cards. Of course, you say, hi, how are you? These are people that you know. That's not a cold lead, which we're going to dive into later about cold leads versus SOI. So that might be a contact, right? And that's something that you went to that session planning on what to say and who you were calling. That doesn't cut into your lead gen time then. But that's okay if it's going to be one of those random days, that's fine too. But don't sit there for 10 minutes wasting time thinking about who. just dive in and do it. And if you don't know who and you spend 30 minutes figuring that out, then you need to add that 30 minutes to the end of your lead generation, if that makes sense. But
Do you think that it's important for your goals to have like a set number of under contract? Like I was kind of not to backtrack on what you said earlier, but that other agent that doubled his goals. Like I feel like I'm getting to the point that like one of my goals whenever I first started was 12 houses in my first year. That's probably not going to be attainable. Wherever I feel like if I would have had a separate goal and try to double that, that I could have a better opportunity to get to that 12 without that being my actual goal. That makes sense.
it does make sense. So two things I'm going to say about that is this: there's seasonality to be considered, right? And so we all have our own seasonality depending on when you got licensed. For one, the year starts somewhere randomly in the year, right? But we're also, if you got licensed the beginning of the year or the end of last year, know that the first quarter of the year is usually the slowest, right? So that doesn't mean that your 12 is equal parts 4 per quarter or 3 per quarter or whatever, right? It's changing based on seasonality. And when you start tracking your business, you're going to know my best seasons are spring and fall. They always are. I don't know why, it just always is. Summer is not my best season. It is spring and fall. Why? Probably this. I'm spending a lot of time getting my crap together and getting reorganized and doing stuff in the winter time. So therefore, I get transactions in the second quarter, right? Because I spent the first quarter when we were in a lull working. So now my Q2 is when I'm starting to see the fruits of my labor, right? And then same thing then happens in the summer, things kind of slow down because everything popped in the spring. So now I'm working really hard in the summer again to get business in the fall. And so you have to learn what's your seasonality, because I promise there's this, I'm busy this time of the year and someone's busy the opposite, right? But there is seasons. I mean, the first quarter is just not. So when I look at my goals, it's not an even quarter distribution. I might put one transaction closed in the first quarter and then go heavy on those closings Q2. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I feel like if I didn't do a goal closing and had a separate goal of something else that I feel like I could work on, I might get more closings because of that, if that makes sense.
What she said too.
Well, this is why we're doing the 90-day sprint, right? So for those of you who don't know, we have a tight group of agents that are fully invested in being part of this project challenge that we've launched now a month ago. And we're just into starting our 60 days of it. And so what you've done there is you took your, goals for the year and made a 90-day plan. And so I would say what you should be doing is taking your year GPS and chunking it down and looking at it every 90 days. So yes, and taking those goals that way too. So you will start to see those results, right? All right. A 30, 60, 90. We give everybody a 30, 60, 90. I give you all one when I get you into coaching. Ashley gives you guys one when you're onboarded. These are just some of the things on here. I put it here as more of a checklist for you to go back and look at it again. Obviously, you should already all have done this, so I'm just going to scan past it, but I just wanted to point out that I included it here again. All right. Questions on any of that before I dive into tools? Anybody here or anybody on Zoom? Just unmute yourself. Inevitably, somebody always types in the chat and I don't see it till the end because it's covered. All right. So must-have tools. We need to have a CRM, which you guys luckily have with our company, which is Command. So learning how to use it for your benefit is very beneficial. You should be putting everyone you know in your CRM, starting with when you have your first tech meeting with Amanda, taking everybody in your cell phone or clean it up first and just dump it right into your CRM. I would recommend this being a good time to do a clean sweep of I think I have 2,000 contacts in my phone. I'm not putting all of them in Command. Some of them are pizza shops. Some of them are Kim. I don't know what their last name is. I don't know who's who. When I go to text somebody, I'm like, oh crap, which one is this? So cleaning it up, making sure you have a first and a last name, and then there's not duplicates. Because once you get that into Command and then you have all this stuff, then you got to go in there and clean it up. I recommend just cleaning it up in your phone. and then dumping it in that way. Or maybe that's part of your lead gen time or time that you're spending working, which is I'm going to put 2 people from my, I'm sorry, not 2, 10 people from my contacts today into my CRM. And then you can just scroll through and pick and choose who they are. Then we go back and we revisit that CRM and say, okay, now I have names and numbers. How do I get their email address? I don't have their email addresses. Well, that's part of your lead gen when you call them. Hey, blah, 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 whatever script you're using when you contact them, I'd love to send you a market snapshot of your neighborhood or whatever it is that you're trying to do to get them to agree to give you their email address. And then we can kind of go back in and look there. Their address is also important because if you're going to do mailings, like I do Thanksgiving cards or whatever it is that you're looking to do, that's going to be helpful if you have that in there also. So utilizing and learning how to use your CRM is super important. What other marketing design platforms are you going to use to create your marketing materials? Canva we get for free with KW, but we also have Total Expert. We also have Breakthrough Broker with our title company. Total Expert is through Cross Country. So if you don't know what that is or you haven't got it set up, reach out to Matt with Cross Country and he's happy to meet with you and walk you through how to get that set up, but we can create marketing materials there. Accessing the MLS and knowing how to use it, as we talked a little bit about, as well as all of the things which we use. I put DocuSign. We don't have DocuSign. I only put that here because if I sell this book, I need it to be for everyone and not just for people at our market center. So that's why I wrote that. Learning Dotloop and knowing how to create documents, knowing what those contracts say and how to use them is important as to your business. If you want to start doing open house, having materials, ordering open house signs, it's an expense in doing this business. It's not free. You should have signs. I would be also have a variety of riders with different times and days. So this way you're not stuck just with the same one all the time. That's just part of the expense. Keep the receipts. Those are all 100% write-offs. So that's how you run a business. Mindset and time blocking. Again, for me in my life, I don't try to remember what I have going on today. It's all in my calendar. I can feel confident that it's in my calendar. I was freaking out a little bit when I went and got a new cell phone from Apple and I was like, my calendar's not going to disappear, right? Because I've got stuff in there for like months ahead. So if you're going to use your calendar, make sure that you don't lose the app whenever you do an update or anything crazy like that. But I time block everything. My dog getting her heartworm medicine is on my calendar. Believe me when I say Tuesday night trash goes out because it's on my calendar. I don't take it out, but I have to remind people to. But it is on my calendar. So learning how to use that and just being under the mindset that that's not invasive or intrusive in your life, it's going to help you, right? Overview of the local market is so important. And again, how do I do that? Well, I get on the MLS. We teach these classes. The MLS teaches you how to use the MLS as well. What's the average days on market? Let's just look at that. I'm going to pull, let's say, Jackson Township in this price point. What's been going on? How many houses have sold this year so far? What's the price range that they've sold? What's the average price per square foot that they're selling for? Does that matter? I'm going to be listing a house for my neighbor here on May 7th, and he's hung up on price per square foot. Listen, buddy, it doesn't matter price per square foot in this case. We need to find comparables to your house. These aren't comparables. So price per square foot could be different where you live. It could be different whether it's a 2-story or a ranch. So it's not just based on, the numbers are all over the place. And when you dig into the MLS, you'll see that some houses are 330 a square foot. Some are 129 a square foot. That's going to depend on the location and it's going to depend on the condition of the house too. So those are just not always figures that we can go on. I'm trying to get him to understand this. The neighbor house to him sold for 1.395 last year, and he thinks that his house compares. It doesn't. It's a big 2-story with a walkout basement. You have a ranch that doesn't have a walkout basement. So those are important things to know. So when you are on those appointments, you know how to talk to people about it. He also thinks he has a walkout basement. And I said, oh, you mean a walk up? You have a walk up basement. And sure enough, when we went down the basement, there's an exit to the garage. That's a walk up. That is not a walkout. The walkout is, these are the windows. There's a door. I can exit to ground, not go up, right? So those are all those things that when you're investigating and looking online, you'll be able to understand and know. And some of that's just with experience too. Understanding the inventory. We are still in a seller's market. I don't know what people watch on the news or care. Here in our area of Northeast Ohio, we are still in a seller's market. That might not be the case out west. That might not be the case further north of us. We don't really need to worry about what's going on elsewhere, other than it does start out west and trickle this way. So if they're starting to see it become a buyer's market again, it's going to find its way across the map to us at some point. It just, we don't know when, right? But currently we're still in a hot seller's market. I mean, Jake can tell you, he just listed his house on Tuesday and he already has 2 offers, and it is Thursday at 11:30 in the morning. So that's a hot seller's market. And they were good offers. They're workable, right? So that is something to know. It gets people excited when you know that. They want to hear that, sellers, right? And it's also a reality checker for buyers to know that we're still in a hot seller's market. We want to be careful of popular neighborhoods and schools. We want to ask those questions. We don't want to steer people. I know all of you passed your real estate test, and one of those questions is about steering. We can't say you should move to this area because they have good schools or whatever. It's where would you like to be? And if they say, do they have good schools? That's public information. I'm not answering that question. We have to be careful with fair housing and stuff like that. So know the information, but don't over speak it and get yourself in trouble, right? Overview of the transaction process. We have a step-by-step class that I teach called Contract to Close. I do go in here in a little bit detail about what that's going to look like. So it's super important. Oh, where should this page be? I guess I put that in my edit notes because I didn't feel like it was relevant there. Branding. We just did this class, was it last week or the week before, I think, and what that could look like. So knowing what's my logo look like, creating a logo in Canva for yourself. What color combinations do I want to be marketing myself? The important point here I'm going to say is go into that PowerPoint, because we just did that class and it goes into great detail about branding yourself, but everything should be the same. My signature line should look the same as my header on my Facebook page. My business cards, colors and fonts and all of that stuff should match. My signature line and my email should match my social media colors. You know, whatever that looks like for you, there should be a brand vibe, right? If Coke can suddenly was navy blue, would we really recognize that as a Coke can? We would not. It's red, right? We all know that it's red. Maybe they have weird holiday editions or whatever, but it's red. So you want to stick with that. We recognize things because it's branded. So start from the beginning and make it easy for yourself so that you don't have to rebrand and rebuy stuff. So I've been working my way the past year or so in rebranding my stuff to follow, and I feel like we've got the best colors. I wouldn't want to be at a brokerage that has ugly colors, which I consider to be like citrusy colors. In any case, we have red, black, gray, and white. Is there a lot you can do with those? Those are really neutrals. So I would say stick with that, but you know, it's your brand. Do whatever you want to do there. Questions on that? So this is set up, this class and this was set up as a workbook. I'm not going to continue to edit it as a workbook, but it is as it stands a workbook. So with that, I end every chapter with an assignment. So here for you guys, and for those of you on Zoom, screenshot this page before I dive into part 2. Number 1, your assignment is create a workspace for yourself. Whether that's you're going to come in the office and use space here or you have space at home. You need to have a space to call work, right? Where there's little distractions. Unless you don't have little people at home or animals or any other adult is wandering around, your kitchen table will work. But if you have distractions and it stops you from continuing what you're doing, they say build a moat around your time, right? That means no one's going to bother me during this time. When you have your lead gen time or work time, you should also not be checking text messages and emails. This is work time. Don't get distracted with that. So we need to have our workspace to be able to spend time doing the things that you need to do. So also spending time in the MLS dot loop and your CRM is part of that assignment. Setting up your voicemail Guys, you shouldn't have a regular voicemail that's just you. It should say who you are and as an agent with Keller Williams. So I mean, I don't know, your friends and family probably aren't waiting until your voicemail comes up. They're hanging up. No one leaves messages hardly ever anymore. But you want your voicemail to reflect who you are or what that should sound like. So like, I don't want this weird kind of, you know what to do. That doesn't sound terribly professional, right? So pay attention and listen to your own voicemail. You might be surprised. I love when people say I'm on vacation from 2 years ago and they never change their voicemail. It still says they're on vacation from 2024. So listen to your voicemail, audit yourself and all those things occasionally. Making sure you have a current up.
Voicemails too.
Well,
'Cause we're
absolutely.
Constantly getting stuff, so I've had that happen a few times.
Change their voicemails just for when they go on vacation.
Sometimes I don't recommend it.
I've only made, before I got into real estate, I only had one voicemail, and then I changed it to
Mhm.
real estate, and it's been the same since.
I mean, if I have, let's say I'm on vacation at someplace I can't be reached and you're helping me with my business, my voicemail may say, I'm on vacation from this day to this day. Please call Andy. Her phone number is this.
Okay.
That might be a reason to do it, right? If you're not going to be able to answer the phone. So setting up your voicemail, your email signature, making sure you have a professional updated headshot, cropping your head out of a Facebook post is not. That's not. Making sure that you get those things done are super important. Creating potentially a social media business page if you'd like. Then making sure that you have your bio on everything. Your bio should be out there so people can Google you and see who you are. Also this, I don't have this in here, but we do this exercise, so I think it might be relevant to say. Go on ChatGPT. I'm going to add this to this. And ask it who you are as a real estate agent. So who is Gina Ferrer as a real estate agent in the state of Ohio? Say the state of Ohio, because you'd be surprised people that have your name. And it's going to tell you who you are and then say, how can I optimize my social media or my internet presence? Give me 10 ideas and it's going to spit out what you should be doing. So I recommend everybody to do that from time to time. What's the world seeing if you Google me? And then of course, spend some time on branding and implement your 30, 60, 90 if you have not, or refresh it. Okay. Maybe this should be an eight section class because I feel like I'm speeding through now. Questions about any of that with the getting started? All right. Part 2. So I love the list of the differences that I came up with here with a little help from ChatGPT. Who is my SOI, my sphere of influence, and what are cold leads? By the way, calling your second cousin is not a cold lead. A person that goes to church with you is not a cold lead. Networking group, or even if it is an internet lead to you, that is not a cold lead. I know people think that it is. A cold lead is someone who didn't just give you their name and number. How could it be cold if they went on your website and they gave you their information? That is not cold. Cold is this. I pulled up the white pages and I started calling with A's. Complete strangers that, by the way, I checked on the do not call list, of course. That's cold calling. So when people say to me, I'm just not doing great because I hate cold calling, I'm like, well, who are you calling? That's cold. No one's calling the white pages, by the way. And so maybe you bought a list. That could be cold calling. There are services out there that will give you that you can purchase a list of names and numbers. That's a cold call. There's companies out there that will provide you with, so Vulcan 7 is one of those companies that you can pay, I think it's $500 a month, and they will give you a daily list of for sale by owners and expireds. Those are cold calls because they didn't know they were on that list, right? So that would be considered a cold call. So I list all the things that aren't. Your family's not cold calling, friends, neighbors, coworkers, school alums, someone I went to school with years ago. Maybe I am 25 years old and my friend's parents, that's not a cold call, right? My dentist's office, hairdressers, nails, when I was getting my nails done yesterday, I was talking about real estate with my nail girl. I ever set up in a search Someday she's going to find the right house and she's going to work with me because I talk about real estate when I'm there. And I do it purposely so that everybody else who's busybody in there is listening to our conversation and they know that I sell real estate. So I'm not going to walk around and pass out my card like I'm running for office, but I am going to have situations where I'm talking about it, that if somebody hears us and they know that, oh, they're talking about real estate over there. Hey, I have a question. Do it however you want to do it, but that's what I do there. We're always talking about it. So look at what the difference is between cold leads and your SOI. There's examples here for both. Okay, building your database. Let's start with your top 50 database. I just did a class also recently on your top 50 database. There's a whole class wrapped around just that one database. And how do I identify my top 50? Well, my top 50 database is people that I know have or will refer me business. And maybe it starts with 10. And then I'm going to build out from there. So we should be adding people to our database on a regular basis. So if again, your goal at the end of the week is to have 25 contacts, so maybe the goal is also to add 50 contacts to my database, or somewhere between for 50 and 100, maybe in a month. Or in a week, it depends on how much time. This is your full-time or part-time job, but I need to keep building that database. As you're doing that, you should be tagging them. So it talks about your CRM tags here. One of the tags could be your top 50. I'm going to live on my top 50 for a second. I start out with 10. I build my way to top 50. It's never 51, by the way, not ever 51. If I heavily market, and so my top 50 are people that I bring a nice Easter lily and just set it on their front porch, or I bring a mom in the fall and just set it on their porch with my card in it, or I'm going to make sure that I contact them 4 times a year by phone. I'm going to ask them to go meet for coffee. I can do that with 50 people in a year. I can't do that with 150 people, right? So they're going to get special treatment because they know that, and they also, by the way, it's not a secret, they know they're on my top 50. They should know that they're in your database and that they're special. And the reason that they're special is because they give you referrals, or that they would use you if they're ready to buy or sell themselves. They feel special when you tell them that they're on that special list. They also know it because you're giving them stuff occasionally. Like I'm giving them those flowers, or I'm doing gingerbread houses, or maybe one year doing Valentine's candy, whatever. Make it fun, whatever you want to do. Or you just make sure that you're engaged with them enough throughout the year that you're constantly asking, do they know somebody? And then eventually that does happen. Circle prospecting is taking an address, like your own personal home, and prospecting the neighborhood around it. So like maybe Jake, I'm thinking of you. Maybe I'm going to take my neighbors in the neighborhood behind me and I'm going to do one street at a time. And I'm going to send all of them a postcard that says, hey, the market's hot. I just sold my own personal home. I got more than I thought. I didn't, or whatever it is. If you like a free CMA, let me know. And then next week, 10 more. And then next week, 10 more. That's circle prospecting, right? That's going to fill some of those 2-hour-a-day lead generation time slots if you're doing things like that. It's the same as farming a particular neighborhood. Circle prospecting is just starting with one address and working around it versus picking a neighborhood and just going street by street. But part of your goal could be with that is I can manage 10. I can do 10 a week. I can afford to pay for postage for 10, or go knocking on 10 doors and put a door hanger if that doesn't say no soliciting. Obviously, open house, social media, and all the different many possible lead sources that you should all at least have 3 on your GPS that say, these are my 3 most important priorities. And then you're building your business plan around that with your GPS. I included a bunch of scripts here for you all to have, even though they're in the drive-in scripts, for a bunch of different things. So one of them is scripts for at an open house and how to talk to buyers, how to talk to internet leads, and here's some possible scripts. What can I say if I'm asking for referrals from past clients, friends, or family? There's some scripts on that. Social media DMing, some scripts for that. How can I talk to my sphere of influence, people I know, neighbors, some ideas of different things that you can say there. some different tips about those scripts. Again, I'm not going to read over all of them, but I then dive into scripts for sellers, and I gave you some examples there. Initial seller lead script. I've just met this person or they just got referred to me. It's really important, in particular with sellers, to learn how to objection handle. Like, again, and this is why I say I'm going to need to add examples here. An example of a listing appointment. He says, what do you think I should list for? And then he wants to list for 75,000 more. So my objection handling is this. Well, we will do it your way for a week. And then along with the paperwork you're going to sign, I'm going to bring a status change form that does a price reduction. And then we're going to do it my way. I don't want you to think we didn't try. So we'll absolutely do it, even though I know there should be an 8 in front of it and not a 9. But you never know. So we'll give it a try. So we need to learn how to have those conversations with people. It's not just, sure, well, they'll do whatever you want, because they're also going to be saying, what's your commission and why should I pay that? I mean, a listing that I just had, it's a neighbor again of mine. I was going there because my damn Amazon packages never come to my house. And there I am in my like gym clothes and bare feet, because I wasn't going to wear my shoes in his house, grabbing my package. And he says, what do you think my house is worth? What is your commission and why should I list with you? I just came over to get an Amazon package, and I'm like, those are unfair questions to ask me in your foyer. I know that you're the kind of a person who is going to probably interview other agents. So I need to ask you to schedule an appointment with me for tomorrow, and I'll come back and I'll have a really solid professional answer to those questions. Do not just shout numbers out. What would have happened to me, and I even said to him after I went back, was, had you interviewed 3 other agents, you would have thought in your mind, wow, they did things also professionally. And Gina just stood in the foyer and threw out numbers because he was asking me. So control the situation is my point. I controlled it by saying, whoa, we're putting on the brakes. I got to come back. I've got to actually work my numbers that way. And of course, now I'm getting the listing. I probably wouldn't have if I just said, sure, I'll just email you. I hear you guys doing this sometimes. Don't just say, oh yeah, I'll just email it to you. How could you know if you haven't seen the house, right? So I didn't even ask him to tour his house at that point. I said, I kind of have an idea. I'm going to do my market analysis, and then I'm going to come back, and I've got a big range of my market analysis. And as I do the tour of the house, this one doesn't compare, but this one does. And maybe I thought it was nicer than it is, or it wasn't as nice as I thought. So I always bring a nice range to not get myself in a sticky situation on under or overpricing it. So I try to bring a range, but it makes it hard right now because there's such a few amount of comparables, in particular at his price range. So it just makes life hard. So he said to me at the appointment the other day, so how do you feel about the 975? And I said, listen, this is how you, again, learn how to talk to people. He's a retired detective. I said, you're a retired detective. I have no evidence that proves that your house is 975. But we're winging it. Let's give it a try. So, I'm speaking his language is my point. And he was like, okay, yeah, I get it. So are you going to prosecute somebody that you don't have evidence? I don't have evidence that proves that your house is worth what you think it is. You saw the comps, but we'll give it a try for 1 week. So just learning how to handle those objections with people are super, super important. Condition of home puts you in such a sticky situation. So here's some things you can say to people. I like to say, let's look at the photos of the comparables. If you want this price, they need to look like the pictures. Instead of me saying your house looks like crap and you're not going to get that price, or you need to clean. Clean is such a sticky conversation with people, especially me. I have friends that don't let me come over because I am a very organized, clean person, and they don't want me to judge, so they don't ever have me over. Perfectly fine. Can't help myself because I am judging. I got to be honest. But nonetheless, so in any case, knowing how to handle those kind of sticky situations. I mean, I listed a house once where the guy we were coming for pictures. He had a half-eaten sandwich on the vanity in the bathroom by the toilet and a bug smashed on the wall. And I was there to take pictures. So you can only just imagine what the rest of the place must have looked like, right? So just those are hard conversations to have with people. And I just fall back on here's the comparables and this is what they look like. If you want that price, it needs to look like that. So maybe you need to do some stuff, right? The whole I'm selling as is, okay, yeah. Then you're keeping your house potentially with the sandwich too. So he didn't let me down the basement, which I was kind of glad about because I didn't know what I was going to find when we went down there. So only time in my entire business that I didn't ever go down a basement was there. Anyway, commission objection. This comes up a lot, not every time. So don't just dive in and assume. And this works for when you're working with buyers or with sellers. Don't just assume every buyer is going to ask you to cut your commission when you sign the buyer's agency. My goodness, don't dive into reduction or shorter periods of time because you have the assumption that they're going to ask for less. Go in with your top number and work your way down if you have to, and decide where your minimum's at. The best script for negotiations of commission is this. If you're hiring me to negotiate a price for your house, and I can't even negotiate right now with you about the money I'm going to make, what kind of a good negotiator would I be to get you more for your house? Does that make sense? And they always go, oh, so that's my quickest way to avoid that conversation. And I'll have a minimum in mind. You guys can do that. We're not a discount brokerage, but the higher the price, the more I'm willing to come down. This $975, I'm going to do it for 2.5, but I'm not doing it for 2. He's a real pain in the butt. So I know that it's going to be not an easy transaction. So I'm definitely not going to go down less than 2.5, but that's my choosing, right, to do the job. I mean, if it was a $2 million house, maybe I would. So as it gets higher, I'm going to be willing to adjust because yes, the work is the same, but also their expectations are more. I got to pay, I'm always paying for professional photography, but now I got to pay the drone guy to come too. And not just do drone outside, but do drone inside. So now I'm paying for professional photography and professional drone to be done. So they expect more things. So the commission's going to not be that negotiable. Expired listing scripts are listed in here. All kinds of different social media post ideas are in here. What to look for and how to create content I've got here. A good idea is client testimonials. That's something that I have printed and in my buyer and seller marketing packet. You should have those posted on your business page or on your personal page someplace where people can see what are my clients saying about me. That should also live on your website. With Amanda, when you guys meet to do your website and write your bio and stuff, there's a drop down tab that says testimonials. And if there's not, she can build it in there. Someone should go to your website and be able to see what your clients are saying, even if it's just one closing.
Do you feel like people look at your website more or like your Google business?
So they only look at what I market them to do. So if I want them to go to my website, I might create a QR code on a marketing material that takes them to my website instead of to my Facebook page. Maybe if I do a post on social media and I want to drive traffic to my website, I'm going to put my website on the social media post.
Okay. If people, we probably can't do this, but I was gonna say, if people already gave you reviews on your Google business profile, because I made a landing page and I sent it out to them with my website and then my Google business profile, and they just had to like copy and paste whatever they wrote in together, but they only put it on Google.
You can.
Oh, we can.
With their permission, you can copy and paste those reviews or those testimonials onto wherever.
Okay.
So imagine that you go to closing and they write a testimonial, right? You can take that and actually, now there's sites that you want them to do it though, because then it looks like you entered it on behalf of versus they put it on there.
Okay.
But like on your website, you can just type that up.
Okay.
If you put it together for a marketing packet, you can type it up. Go
I
ahead.
also see like Nick Rock, he always posts on social media, like just something with his logo and then the testimonial with a dash of first name, so like.
Absolutely.
It's good marketing that way too.
Yeah. And people want to work with people that they know that there's other people that say good things about you.
But if you haven't had a lot of like actual client reviews, are you able to use other reviews from like notable people that you've gotten it from? Somebody told me to do that when I first got licensed.
There's no reason not to. Like you can absolutely just tweak it to make it sound like what you're wanting to, but it can't say And he's a great real estate agent to work with.
Your character, not them like saying something.
Yeah.
Didn't happen.
It's your social media or your business. You can make it do whatever you want. I mean, someone could go on there and do a reel that says, she's such a great person. I had her as a student when she was in school. Like, you mean, you can do whatever you want with that. Follow up like a pro. And this is again, that 36 touch campaign. We do a whole class just on that. So I just touch on that here, but understanding what does a 36 touch campaign look like? And it's here. It's 4 calls per year, and this is for a year. It's 26 bi-weekly emails or something like that. So you can, I would say once a week for a newsletter is probably too much. Once a month might be okay. Twice a month might be better if you have different information. 2 pop buys where you just stop by and drop something off. 4 promotional mailings or holiday cards or sporting event calendars, that kind of thing. And then, attend a nurturing class to learn more about that. Also, we've heard people talk about the 5x5. We were just talking about that yesterday. This is what it is. For 5 days, you're going to make 5 phone calls and have 5 contacts, and you need to get their name, number, and email address. And then you're only going to talk to those 5 people for 5 minutes. And at the end of the time that you're done doing this after a month, you're going to have hundreds of leads. It's 300 in 90 days if you follow this. So there's a whole system around what you're going to do in the 5x5. And again, it's in there for you guys to look at. I know we're a couple minutes over, so I wanted to get to the assignment. Add 100 people to your database, create weekly lead generation plan, meaning on a calendar, nurture and follow up with your database, decide what you're going to say and your scripts are going to be with your SOI or other leads, and then track those results. I'm going to stop doing, the share here so we can look at everybody on here to see what questions you have. But I even included what a lead tracker could look like and what you might be tracking. Part 3, which is next week, is going to start with A to Z working with buyers and sellers. Okay. All right. Questions about any of that when I stop share? Anybody? Anybody on Zoom? All right, guys. Thanks for listening to me. Thank goodness I can talk really fast. And going on. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.